Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the All About Us podcast, Africa in Diaspora. Here we talk about Africa, Africans all over the world, and indigenous populations. We talk about our culture, religious beliefs, politics, world situations, and things impacting all of us. Hopefully, by exploring these topics, we can try to connect and bring us together. Today, my guest is an artist, a vegan, a holistic spiritualist, a teacher, a mentor, and he has traveled many different locations. This morning, I would like to introduce our audience to Edward Terrel. How are you doing today, Edward?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me on your program, and I hope that it expands and reach many people in your audience, because I like what you just said, how, we're trying to communicate on a level where we can understand each other on this planet Earth.
Well, once again, our Earth, our planet is going over the tipping point in many different ways, culturally, environmentally, socially, and it seems like no one cares. No one cares. No one is giving a voice. No one is talking about where we came from and what we lost. And that is what this show here is really about, and bringing us all together and teaching us to love each other and embrace each other.
Yes, sir.
One of the big problems I see we having is, as Africans and indigenous populations, we don't have that sense of culture that other races have. And some people don't understand what I mean by that, but I'm going to let you talk and interject first. What's your viewpoint and perspective on that?
My viewpoint and perspective is basically hitting on some of the things you just said. Our culture has been lost. Our culture has been lost because we have been captured. Our ancestors were captured and made to submit and to assimilate into this Western type of society. And we have been told a lot of misnomers and lies. One is that Columbus did not discover the mainland of the United States of America. He was in the islands, and when he was there, he massacred people, indigenous people, by the thousands.
Correct.
And even here in Northern America here, native indigenous people were forced to go to schools and get their haircuts and come out of the so-called forest, come out of the nature that they knew so well, and assimilate into becoming a so-called civilized Caucasian. As with my family, I'm on my mother's side, she's a Seminole Indian, and my grandmother, and my father's side, we're out of Gambia, West Africa, and Senegal, from a tribe called the Fullers.
Okay.
So here I am in the United States of America. I'm 76 years old. I'll be 76 this November. And I was born in Philadelphia.
Okay.
But since all that happening to me, I was educated always up until 12th grade. And I traveled the world, and I got another perspective of seeing. There's a saying, one who travels sees more, knows more.
Correct.
I'm not saying that I know more than anyone, but I've been to, say for instance, I lived in Israel for 2.5 years. And my experience there was quite bizarre based on I was raised as a Christian.
Okay.
And the people there that are so-called proclaiming that they're into God, they have no perspective of the Bible according. They are proclaiming that they're Israelites and Jewish people because of the land, not because of the scriptures. So I found I was up against a lot of racism there. I ran across the Ethiopian brothers. There's a lot of them there, lots of Ethiopians that was going through the same discrimination as I was as a Black American. There was also a settlement of Black Americans there who were Jewish. And just recently, this was years ago. This was about 27 years ago that I lived in Israel. And there was a Black community there, Black American community in Israel, that recently, just about a month ago or a couple weeks ago, they were asked to leave Israel And they were there for years.
Correct.
They had schools and two generations of children. And they were asked to leave there. I didn't follow much up on the story, but I was aware of their existence there. That takes me back to what I was just saying, that when you travel, you get to see more and know more. And when I traveled, I did not travel as a tourist. I traveled, I would guess you would say, as a nomad or a seeker. My profession was an artist and a designer. So many doors open up for me that would not normally open up for a tourist who stayed in a hotel. I didn't stay in hotels. I met people. I stayed with families and became a part of the culture of whatever country I was in.
Now, I want to go back to this whole thing you were just touching on with Israel. Because I'm a Christian, and it's very troubling to me in many ways, because when I look and think about Israel, the first question that comes to mind to me is, where is the love? Where's the love?
Yeah. Where is the thou shalt not kill? Where's the love? Now, where is the Ten Commandments?
Just 1 week before the whole Palestinian war, the most recent war began, there was a Christian poor there in Israel. They said the Zionists were actually spitting on Christians during the tour.
Yes, that goes on there. And there's also, they're not favorable for Christians. As you talk about Jesus, and they don't want to hear that. Basically, in their religion and philosophy, Jesus never was here on that level as the Messiah. They're waiting for the Messiah.
Correct.
Jesus Christ is not their so-called Savior or their Messiah. So when you're in that particular country, and like you said, the Zion, there's a difference between, there's two sectors of the Jewish philosophy and religion there. There's the Zionist, and then there is the Orthodox Jew,
correct,
Jewish man. Those are the ones that wear the black and have the two little ponytails hanging.
They're the Hasidic.
They're more, how we say, they're more bona fide. They're more bona fide than the Zionists. They're more bona fide and they have practical things that they do to bona fide their faith compared to the Zionists are more like intellectual, materialistic, and bigots. And this is what's going on there. The Zionists run the government. They're into the politics, and they need a place to maintain. So they proclaim that this place is theirs.
And that's a big contention I have also, because if you read the book of Exodus, Moses brought the remnant of the Jews from Egypt to the land of Canaan. Guess who are the modern day descendants of the Canaanites? The Palestinians.
Yes.
From the inception, the biblical Jews were invaders. Biblical Jews were invaders.
Yeah, and in 1948, they bona fide it even more, because during the war with, Hitler, World War II, they were persecuted very heavily throughout Europe.
Correct.
And when the war was over, they had an alternative to where can we place these people?
And it was the British colony of Palestine. But when that was drawn up, it was supposed to be carved into two equal states, and it has never been equal. It has never been equal.
No, yes, I know. When I lived there, you could see the division. There was checkpoints all over the place. You could hardly move around sometimes there. I had a bicycle, so I had a bicycle in a tent. I traveled around in my bicycle, different markets and fairs and stuff. Like I said, I lived there for 2.5 years. It was quite interesting, because I felt that I was in, so like you were saying, I felt that I was in the Holy Land, because I was raised as a Christian, and I knew about the Dead Sea, and I knew about Jericho, and I knew about Jerusalem based on the scriptures that I read about. But like I said, the Zionists, they're just there. To them, they're not very much religious compared to the Orthodox. They're in a very strange situation. Someone gave them some authority to have some land, and they're into materialism and capitalism to the maximum. They do not care about no one else but their so-called settlements and their own selves. And I'm not saying this as a racist or a bigot or anything. This is my observation. I was there, like I said, I was there 27 years ago, and this is what I saw there. And I'm not saying that this is not my opinion. I believe in the way to really have a conversation is from experience, observations, and common sense. I'm not pushing any flag or any political ideology or anything. I just saw the Israel people as very bigotry and racist.
When the treaty was drawn up in 1947, the treaty was drawn up in a manner where it stated that they would be placed in Palestine, but they would have to provide their own defense, and they would not look for any outside assistance in defending themselves from the West.
The United States of America is giving them billions,
of course,
based on defense. And this is one of the main issues right now with us getting involved with this. Well, I say us because I am an American citizen, a Black American. It's very touchy. And we have bad leadership right now. I don't feel that Joe Biden is a good leader. I don't really feel that he's mentally capable of analyzing any type of situation right now, based on the fact that he's up in his age. And if 67 is the retirement age, what are we doing with the 80-year-old president?
Yes, that can pose a problem. But once again, we have this situation here where they were placed in an area where they were going to have to fight and defend themselves constantly. And so we have this situation where they have really developed into a warlike society.
Yeah. They have the nuclear bomb. They have the nuclear bomb there in Israel. They've had it for maybe the last 15 to 20 years. They have it.
I was shocked.
So Palestine, they have stones and pipe bombs and little man-made missiles and rockets. It's totally unfair. The war that's going on there. It's totally unfair based on the odds. And there's an issue that a lot of people are not understanding it because it's not really out. You see, a lot of oil comes through that region there, not so much in Israel right now, but the whole area of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, all that. There's this place called the Suez Canal.
Correct.
You ever hear that? The Suez Canal?
Correct.
It's the canal that brings all these boats full with oil, the tankers through the Mediterranean and then into the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, should I say. And with this Suez Canal, the Saudis kind of control it. And the boats that come through there, they have to pay taxes, really heavy taxes, and it's based on the cargo, what they're carrying.
Correct.
Now, in order to eliminate this tariffs and all these taxes that is driving a lot of American Jewish people crazy, is to create an alternative route. And that alternative route is make another canal. And this other canal is going to be coming, it's in the plan. This other canal, they wanted to come through Gaza, which will be Israel, because this is what they're trying to level and conquer. They want Gaza, they want that land. It's not for settlements, it's so that they could bring the canal through there so that they don't have to pay all this money going through the Suez Canal.
Wow.
That's what it's about. And amongst other things, they're pushing it as a religious aspect, and they're pushing it as a territorial aspect on a biblical name, which they do not honor. They're Zionists. They do not honor the name of Israel. They honor the name of, we were displaced people in 1948, and here we are imitating the Jews. They're imitators, impersonators. But whoever writes the story of this history is going to really have a job on their hands to try to explain it. And it's really mind-boggling based on a lot of us, such as yourself, who has understanding of the scriptures, of the Bible, and have understanding of the world situation. This is just devastating considering it's 2023, where we're supposed to be so civilized and at the height of our intellectual game of reasoning and knowledge, that people are dropping bombs on women and children.
The most shocking thing I just read today is that they have placed an order for over 500,000 semi-automatic weapons to U.S. gun manufacturers just over the last week. And now the politicians and activists are up in arms because they want to give these automatic weapons to police officers and settlers in the West Bank.
Holy smokes. That's so sad.
And
That's so sad.
It's just incredible. I was shocked. I was shocked at the horror of what happened. I don't believe in dehumanization on either end. Hamas was wrong for what they did, but I was equally shocked that you have a Jewish culture. You have placed yourself in a situation and fermented an environment where you have to have safe rooms and bomb shelters inside of your homes. That blew my mind.
Yeah, they do. They have those. Actually, they do.
That blew my mind that almost every house had a safe room.
You've seen the pictures on the news, how they are blowing up apartment buildings, 15-story, 20-story apartment buildings. Modern day civilization is being rocketed and bombed. Stores and supermarkets and hospitals. That's not war. That's a annihilation. That's war is when I guess you're on a battlefield, but those days are over. They're shooting rockets and missiles and drones. And they're doing it in the night when people are sleeping. In the Geneva Convention, there's rules of war. You're not supposed to fight at night. Even primitively, I read in the concepts of the Bhagavad Gita out of India, the rules of war is you don't fight at night.
Correct.
At nighttime, you rest, and then in the morning, you go to the battlefield. You don't be killing people. See, they're totally making life unbearable for all of us on the earth. This war, this conflict that's going on in Israel right now is affecting the whole world.
Oh,
definitely. I don't think it's affecting Africa so much. That's why I got to get to Africa. Get out of here. Or India, places like that. But it's affecting this. So when they call it a world war, they don't include the whole world. It's mostly England and Germany and France, America, Canada. They consider themselves the world. The diaspora is it's another story. But this one is going to be if it happens, I praise God that it doesn't. This disturbance that's going on now between Israel and the Palestinians and America and Russia and Ukraine, I just hope that they can resolve this problem without annihilating all of us. Because what comes out of exterminating a human being? Nothing.
Correct.
Nothing. You can't erase suffering. You see I've seen pictures of children who are just totally terrorized. And I've seen pictures of children with logos on their shirts. American, one little boy's blood coming out of his head with a head bandage on. He has a T-shirt that says Chicago. Another one with Nike, a Nike hat. That they're wearing American clothing and they're being bombed by American tax dollars.
It was amazing to me to see some of the children so traumatized. You have little boys and little girls who have spoke in 2 or 3.
They lost their whole family and mothers, and I don't know how people can heal from that. Like I said, I'm 76 years old, and I thank God every day that I rise and start my business and do what I do. But I don't have any baggage of trauma in my life. But if I do, it's something real personal and mostly based on romance, all that nonsense. But to have a whole community bombed and you wake up and you don't have a bed to sleep in, or a change of clothes, or even a cell phone connection. It's just devastating how it's going to affect that generation of the survivors of Palestinians. Because what happened to the indigenous here in the United States of America, I think, is almost what they're trying to do with the Palestinians. They want to eliminate them from that particular land because they want to make this big canal. They want the land. They want the land.
Correct. And it's a sad case. It's a sad state. Today, I thank God, I just had to throw my hands up in the air because I seen where Jordan had started doing airdrop of medical supplies and food. And I've been saying this for weeks now. Why doesn't a country just start flying planes over and dropping food and supplies to the Palestinians? And Jordan began.
Which country is doing that?
Jordan just started that.
Oh yeah. Jordan's a nice country. It's right across the river. Jordan. Their king there is a very peaceful man, very nice man. I never met him personally. I just follow some of the attribute of his leadership. He's a very nice man. Very nice man. Yeah, but he has to be careful because the Israelis, they may shoot his planes down. They're very controlling and territorial, you know? I used to get, like I said, when I was there 27 years ago, I had a bicycle, I had a tent. I ride around my bicycle all over the place. I camped out at the Dead Sea, and I've been to all the holy places there in Israel, and I would get hassled. You get hassled by the Jewish man, the Zionist man, should I say, the authority of the land. Very aggressive type of individuals. So now here I am. You are.
Yeah, all we can do is pray and hope that this small little state doesn't drag the entire world into World War III. I want to digress a little bit. Earlier before the show, you were sharing that you were born in Philadelphia and that you had a family. Your parents, let me say, had 14 children. What was it like growing up in a house with 14 children?
It was very active and very energetic. There was a lot going on all the time. There was a lot going on all the time. And at the time, it was my grandmother and grandfather was there also. So there was always a lot of different odd jobs and hustling. Back then, a lot of people was using firewood and coal.
Correct.
And one of my first jobs that I remember, I built this little wagon. And I would go to the supermarket and people had their groceries because everybody didn't have cars then. So I was using my little wagon to haul groceries home to people in the community, and they would pay me for that. Everybody in my family at that particular time was hustling or working, had some type of way to make money or alternative ways to make money, because that was the neighborhood of North Philadelphia. It was a neighborhood in North Philadelphia, 22nd and Diamond. Back then, it wasn't so much control on how you got your money. It was mostly people were just surviving on entrepreneur types of jobs that you create and make. And so, in my family of having 14 children, 14 siblings, we all was educated to the fact that, hey, you have to make something of yourself, do something with your life.
The world was different back then, and a lot of people don't realize this. Prior to 1968, 69, 70, there was no such thing as food stamps or welfare.
Nope, there wasn't. You had to fend for yourself.
So you worked or you didn't eat. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. You starved.
Yep. Yep, that's how it was back then. I remember. I can say it was a great time. It was a great time. Everybody knew everybody. You had the door. People didn't lock up their houses, and you could have so many friends. You could move around and sleep at their homes. And whenever you went to somebody's house, there was always a meal. And there was only 3 TV stations: NBC, ABC, and CBS.
Correct.
And black and white, and TV would go off at midnight. But nowadays, there's lots of communication, and your show is good because one of the things that I believe that's going to solve a lot of problems is communication.
That's what it's
people open dialogue on communicating and sharing information.
Correct.
Because even back then, when there was those 3 TV stations, there was like control of the information. But now there's not so much control on information. Just like the information I just told you about the Suez Canal and the oil thing.
Correct.
The news media won't talk about that.
No, they won't.
They won't talk about that. They're mostly pushing the issue is that the Palestinians are Arabs and the Jewish people are so-called Christians, and it's a war about their belief and the others' belief. It's not about that. The war is about the land. That's what the war is about.
I am a news buff. I study international news. I have never heard anything about a second canal being built in the Middle East going through Gaza. So this is definitely something that they're concealing and keeping undercover.
Yes, sir. We'll do some investigating and check it out. I was just told that also.
I will.
And I'll gather some information and I'll send it to you also.
Yes, so we can share this on the show. Now, I want to pivot because we're talking about Philadelphia, and it's interesting you stated 22nd and Diamond because that's the area my father lived in Philadelphia. And when I went to move to Philadelphia before I left Pennsylvania at a very young age, that is where I was living, 22nd and Diamond. And it was a very warm, loving community at that time.
Yeah.
Also,
that's North Philadelphia.
It was a very warm, loving community. And I see how our African American community here in the United States has just dissolved.
Digressed. It has digressed very much.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to pose my perspective on it. What do you feel is one of the major problems, just one of the major problems that is plaguing our community?
One of our major problems, I feel, is the education.
Okay.
And I say education, and I'm going to fill that in with information. Education to me is information. And when you have people in a society and you're giving them incorrect information, it creates an incorrect society. And within the Black community, we have been fed a lot of bad information about ourselves and about our environment and about how to be a human being. Then we have been bamboozled to assimilate into this Western society that's demonic.
Okay. Continue.
That's just my opinion that I see one of the biggest problems.
Okay, so
and it's based on this, like I said,
information / education.
Yes, and we have accepted. I feel that this hip hop music has really played a big role in degrading our brothers. And I was watching. I like sports.
Correct.
And I like the competition concept of it, but it has gotten out of hand. But anyway, I was watching LeBron James and some other guys the other day on a clip on social media, and they were getting new jerseys. And they were like little kids with these new jerseys. These are grown men now, right?
Correct.
And these numbers on these jerseys, and the name of the team is like the slave master give you a number, and his plantation is written on your back. I'm going, what is this? And they were like the little kids in a candy shop for these jerseys. So the imagery in our Black community on what is a man and what is the responsibilities and destinations and goals and attribute of being a Black man nowadays, it's bizarre. We're not getting the correct information, and we don't have any real stand-up Black leaders.
Well, a lot of this is because all of this is an extension of slavery and colonialism.
Yes, sir. You're 100% correct. This is the attributes of slavery. I call it mental slavery. America is a failed plantation. It was established as a plantation, and it has failed.
Now, I'm going to state what I believe the number one problem in the African American culture is. I'm going to get a lot of negative feedback for this, but I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to tell the truth. Our number one problem in the African American community is this concept of having children out of wedlock. If you are not married, you should not be making babies. It is causing the destruction of the African American family. You are destroying the concept of family. And when children grow up in a house without a mother and a father, they are at a disadvantage. They're at a disadvantage. The crazy thing is, this morning, I was looking at a few things. The rate of having children out of wedlock in the United States is 40%. I thought that was low. I said, it's not as bad as I thought. But then I looked into the statistics a little deeper. 64% in African American children, in African American families, 2/3 of the children, 2 out of 3 children, 2 out of 3 African American children are born out of wedlock.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
2 out of 3 children, when they are born, their mother and father are not married. Whites, 18%. Less than 1 out of 5 white children are born in a house without a mother and a father. That shows you why our culture is out of control. The family.
Yes, that's one of the big issues also. And within that type of situation, there's disruption within the rearing or raising a child, because there's no foundation. The mother and the father situation is not there. The roots of stabilizing an offspring, raising an offspring, is not there. So the child is left alone to educate and find information elsewhere to raise themselves. And so you have this hip hop community that's bombarding them with nonsense: kill your brother, go have sex with many women, do this and that. So they grab a hold of that. They become a gangbanger. They become this and that, because there was no real lesson coming from a mother and father environment. Now, the whole concept of Black men and women being together in a society that does not really reflect their ancestors' goals of a man and a woman.
Correct.
You see, our relationships as men and women, as Black people, was totally different before we assimilated into this Western culture. In Africa and Asia, the situation between man and woman when they have children is more of a family type of situation, where when you marry into a woman or a man, you also married into the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, the aunts, the uncles, all that is set up and established. So a child has that family atmosphere. Things are not happening with the mother and father. There's always the grandmother, the uncle, the aunt that steps in. But here in America, the whole family tree of the Black community is broken. It's totally broken. So our offsprings are wandering, picking up information here, picking up information there, and they're becoming destitute and totally demonic type of individuals where we're killing each other. It's like self-destruction. It's like taking taking a beautiful bird from paradise and putting him in a cage. After a while, he starts pulling out his feathers. He becomes ugly. And this is what has happened to the black community. We have become very ugly towards ourselves because we haven't had a proper image to hold up as this is who we are. That image has been totally demolished from our existence. So we're forced to assimilate to copy the Caucasian or to copy the Asian. We're totally imitating other races instead of imitating the foundation of our ancestors. And the foundation of our ancestors is the continent of Africa.
Correct. Now, I'm going to take this on a whole different level, and this is going to be the secondary backlash of it. Not only are you breaking the African American family by having children out of wedlock, you're also creating a curse. You're creating a curse. Biblically, children out of wedlock, children born out of wedlock, biblically, the mother and the children are cursed.
Yes.
That's why the Bible calls them bastards. And I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm not saying this to dehumanize people. But we look at our culture and we wonder, what's going on? We used to not be like this. We used to not do these sort of things. Why are so many people out of control? They're functioning and operating under a curse. That curse can be broken, but you have to realize that you're under a curse before you can break the curse.
Programs like yours, talking about these types of situations could help inform people and give people the educational information that's needed.
Exodus tells you that curse, the curse of a bastard, goes down 10 generations.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. What generation are we at now? We must be at number 6 or 7, right?
But I'm just stating, I'm just stating, this here is something that's serious. We talk about this on the social level, the dynamics of the family. People don't even address this on the spiritual level. People won't even talk about this in church now. The spiritual implication of you having a child out of wedlock without a husband, and you're wondering why your life is so hard and why you're having so many problems with your children. It's because you and your children are cursed.
It says in the scriptures about how a family should be set up and established. It says that when you were a child, you spoke as a child, and now that you're a man, you act as a man, and you gather your things and you marry. It says also in the scriptures that men follow God and women follow men who follow God. With these types of teachings and lessons that are not being assimilated into a culture and they're not being so-called digested as absolute morals, the society becomes, like we were talking, it becomes unruly. You have bastards and you have all types of uncomfortable situations occurring based on the child was not reared correctly or raised correctly. And so our society is falling apart because of the generational degradation.
It's a general degradation based upon a biblical curse.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
And I'm not going, this isn't going to be popular. This isn't going to be a popular show. People are going to talk about this. People are going to get angry about it. You're not stuck. But you have to understand. You have to say, why is my life so hard? Why is all of this happening to me? Understand. By you having that baby and you not being married, you created a curse for you and your children. Now you have to understand that, you have to accept that, and you have to put some things in place so you can break that curse.
How does it get corrected?
Once again, you can go before God and you can ask for forgiveness. But once again, true forgiveness means that you move away from doing that same thing over again. So now that you come into the knowledge of this, you stop having children out of wedlock. You ask for forgiveness and basically say, guess what? Okay, I am not having any more children unless I get married. That breaks the curse. You go to God, ask for forgiveness, ask for that sin to be wiped and removed from you and your children, and then you say, this is it. I'm not having no more children without a husband. You block the curse. See, you don't tell people a problem without giving them a solution.
Yes, the solution is the bond, the bond of the man and the woman. Now within that bond, there's rules.
Correct.
There's rules on how the man has to conduct themselves, and there's rules on how the woman has to conduct herself. And within that bond of marriage, these two parties, they have to have God in the middle of all this. This God is their witness that this is what they're going to maintain as husband and wives, to maintain the guidelines of marriage according to God.
See, that's one of the big things. I'm going to let you talk. See, when you have a husband and you have a wife, you have God in the home.
Yes,
you should.
You should because when you get married, you stand before God, and you have your vows. You bless each other, and you dedicate yourselves to each other as God is your witness. So you're going to maintain this marriage to death do you part, based on your love for each other.
When you have two adults in the home, one of them is going to want to do the right thing. So there is going to be some semblance of God in that home.
Yes.
It may not be like somebody else's home. It may not be like a pastor's home. It may not be like the Holy Ghost saint home, but you are going to have some semblance of God in your home when you have a husband and a wife united in marriage, and you have a blessing. You don't have a curse. You're operating under a blessing. You're not operating under a curse.
Yes, that marriage eliminates the curse. It should. That bond should take away that curse.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So this is something that needs to be shared. This is the information. They don't even talk about this in church. Now, they're afraid to scare people off. So they're more concerned with you coming to church and just putting something in a plate nowadays rather than telling you the truth. This is what's destroying our culture, having these babies out of wedlock.
One of the foundations of the church was a form of education, information. You would go to church or Sunday school. They would teach you morals and values on a way that you could carry home with you and build your community and build your home through the teachings of the church. Now, the marriage, you can marry a man now. You can marry a woman now, and there's some moral attributes of marriage institutionalized that's being presented to the populace as the correct way to actually assimilate children or to have a family. Things are out of control, my brother, totally out of control. Information is the truth is being classified as something false, and false things are being classified as something true. Like you said, 10 generations to clean this mess up. I don't know what generation we are now, but to me, it seems that things are just totally out of control.
Once again, unless someone starts speaking about it, unless someone gives them an indication, this is the problem. This is the problem. And it's not just a social problem. It's a spiritual problem. And this is how this is how you solve it. You stop having these children out of wedlock. You stop having these babies out of wedlock. Now, brother, there's another interesting aspect about you. I never knew that you lived in India and you had a wife in India. Tell us about that.
My wife, she wasn't from India. She was from Scandinavia. She was Caucasian.
Okay.
And I met her in Israel.
Okay.
And we left Israel and we went to India together. And she gave birth to my son. He now lives in Scandinavia. He lives in Norway now. He's 27 and he's living by himself and his girlfriend, and he's assimilating to that in that society. His mother passed away giving birth in India to him. And I raised him in Reading. I lived in India for about I think 3 years.
What was India like?
Well, I was there on a spiritual quest. I lived in a place called like ashrams. Ashrams are like spiritual schools, universities. So they're like educational centers, the ashrams. You go there and you practice things and you learn about the Hindu religion.
Hindu, medicine.
Yeah, Ayurvedic medicine and Hindu chants, mantras, Sanskrit. You learn about the soul on it's very interesting.
To me,
it was very interesting. And
I'm going to tell you, you already know me. I believe that the Indian culture is one of the most historic, most powerful cultures. The Indian culture, the Mahabharata.
Oh, you know about that. Wow.
I will tell you, just going into some of the history, reading some of the stories, and realizing these just aren't stories. The wool has been pulled over our eyes. We have been taught that man has only been on this planet for 6,000 years, which...
Oh, no, he hasn't been here. According to the Mahabharata, we've been here 500,000.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. If you talk to Aborigines, and when they have their cultural celebrations, they have to recite their ancestry. They can recite their ancestry going back 250,000 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The wool has been pulled over our eyes, and we have lost more than we've attained now through technology.
I have a question. Why do you think that has happened? I have a viewpoint on why that happened, not why it happened, or why is it continuing to happen?
That's controversial to me.
Yeah.
Civilization is cyclic. So civilizations rise and civilizations fall. You can look at the Roman civilization, the Greek civilization, but we are in this 6,000 year cycle now of Western civilization. Everything we do, practice, and live is part of Greek civilization. It's all part of Greek civilization.
Yes.
And so we are in this whole Western civilization now. But civilization is cyclical. Some of it has occurred via natural disaster. There have been 2 worldwide floods There was one worldwide flood 6,000 years ago. There was another, that was the flood which, quote unquote, we call Noah's flood.
Yeah.
There was another flood, 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age.
Yeah.
A lot of this break in knowledge and civilization has occurred because of the ice ages we've experienced also. In that sense, civilization is cyclic. Civilization is cyclic. You will see a civilization rise, and then something will happen to cause that civilization to be wiped out. And once that civilization is wiped out, all the technology associated with that civilization gets destroyed. Now, there are hints that we have lost some knowledge and we've lost that technology. All you have to do is go look at the pyramids. We can't build a pyramid today. We can't move those blocks. We don't have cranes and equipment large enough to move those blocks that the pyramids are composed of. You go to Machu Picchu, you go to any of these ancient sites where they have these stone megalith structures, where these stones are anywhere from 50 to 1,000 tons. We don't have the equipment to build those types of structures.
Yeah, I know. We're building these structures out of 2x4s.
We don't have the equipment to build these ancient structures, stones which are the 2-3 times the size of a car.
Yes, I've seen them. Like we were talking about India. I remember one place in India that I went to. Now I had to go there. We had to walk there. It was in the Himalayas.
Correct.
And it was like a 3-day journey. And there was like little camps on the sides of this trails and journey where you spent the night. Like little hotels, but they were like tents, big tents. And you give them a couple of rupees and you spend the night there, and you get some tea and some bread, and you go on in your journey the next day. So second day up in the mountains, we were way up in the mountains, man, way up in the clouds. I come across a village.
Okay.
And a man comes out of a building, and he comes to me and he takes me to this building, and I go inside and it's dark. And he has a candle, a ghee lamp. It's like oil lamp.
Okay.
And I go into another room, and then I go into this room, and there's like a 20-foot tall gold statue of Buddha.
Okay.
Like 20-foot tall statue, this dominating this room. The floors are marble. You could just eat off the floors, how clean the place and shiny it was, this lamp. Like I said, it took me 2 days to get there walking because there's no road.
Correct.
And I'm wondering, how did these people put this big Buddha inside this room? Where did all this construction material come from when there's no road? The only road was there was to walk, walking trail. So I've seen these types of things. I've seen things that you just look at and you go, how did they do this?
I can tell you how it was done. I can't tell you how we can replicate it. It's something called harmonic resonance. It was the reason why the Tower of Babel during the Bible, why God, how can I say it, confused the language at the Tower of Babel. They were using harmonic resonance to build these structures with stones so they could reach heaven. Megalith stones. There are sonic vibrations and frequencies that we as humans can create that will change the physical property of structures in this 3D realm. We've lost that ability. We've lost that technology. This stuff was moved by people chanting and opening their mouths, almost like you see the Indians do. They've proven this. They've proven this. If you go at night to any of these locations where there's a stone circle, on any of these Indian reservations, and you take them there at night and they start chanting and playing their ancestral instruments, they can be a half a mile away from this stone circle. And if you look at that stone circle through infrared lights, you will be shocked. It heats up. You start seeing the energy built up in this stone circle. It's all
it's absolutely true what you're saying. They have temples, pyramids in India too. They're called temples, or the mandir. They have carvings on the wall, some carvings of people with cell phones. They have carvings on the wall of bicycles. It's into the artwork. You'll see a bicycle that somebody carved on a temple wall 500 years ago. Or you'll see a cell phone or a watch, or even bracelets that look like walkie-talkies that they're still in stone inside in carvings. So all this technology that we are seeing today is just coming back from the past.
It is
not new.
It's not new.
It's just coming back from, no, it's not new at all. It's just coming back from the past.
And the most powerful technology we haven't even been able to uncover as of yet. And that's why I say, when you start getting into this Indian culture and the Mahabharata and Lord Brahma, and you start understanding all of this stuff, you laugh when I said Lord Brahma. But anyways, when you start reading and investigating and understanding these things, then you come into the realization that we have lost a lot. We've lost a lot. And we're just like maybe on the second or third step of trying to get back to where we maybe were like 50, 60, 70,000 years ago.
Yeah, but we're on the eve of destruction.
That's very true.
It goes back to my earlier statement, education and information. When you control the information and you deny people from knowing things, you create a demonic type of society. And a lot of the things that we have lost, we have not really lost it. It has been hidden from us.
Now, before we close, I'd be remiss not talking about this, because I believe this here is another big problem in our culture. And that has to do with our health and our well-being, our health. And a lot of that has to do with what we eat.
Yes, our diet.
Our diet has a major control. It is a major contributor to either a healthy life or a sickly life. How did you become a vegan, and when did that actually start?
Well, first I was a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for 45 years. And then from being a vegetarian, I've learned the different concepts of processing and consuming foods, and what this food actually has to do with your well-being. I don't drink milk anymore, or butter, or eggs, and because it creates mucus, and mucus is one of the causes of inflammation and a lot of sicknesses.
Correct.
Like for breakfast this morning, this may sound weird to people, but this is what I had for breakfast this morning. I juiced up some celery, a cucumber, a green apple, and some ginger. And that was at 9:30. And at noontime today, I usually I'll eat something around maybe 1. I'll probably have a salad, mostly some radishes, the radish leaves, and tomatoes, some kale, some grains. And I used to eat once a day. Once a day. I weigh 160 pounds. 76 years old. I'll be 76 next week on the 19th of November. And I feel very healthy. I've been, like I said, I haven't eaten any meat in maybe 45, 50 years. 45 years, I say.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's just something that I felt. And when I was in India, I learned about that every living thing has a soul.
Correct.
That there's a soul that represents every living thing, from plants to insects, and that all these things is the property of God. And the property of God, we have no right to destroy it, because God has plans for it, regardless of what level of evolution or evolving that it is. I have no right to kill a cow or to contribute to the slaughtering business. There's a murder. There's the people who own the cow. There's the people who feed the cow, raise the cow, take the cow to market, butcher the cow, and then there's you, the consumer, who eats the cow. Those are the 6 people involved in that conspiracy, that murder.
Correct.
So in the Bible, it says, thou shalt not kill. Doesn't just mean human beings. It means all living creatures. It means all living souls. So I stay away from meat. But people would say, well, plants are alive too, but they're on another level because they multiply quickly. They can sustain you a lot more so than a whole lamb chop or rib or pork chop. All these, and your digestive system is not geared for that. It's not geared. We don't have the acids in our stomachs to really break down this types of food stuff the way it should. So it accumulates in your intestines, and it creates various bacteria and diseases. I became a vegetarian based out of the fact that I wasn't into contributing to the slaughter of animals. And then as I got older, I started to learn more and more about the diet of what we as Homo sapiens should be eating and digesting. Fruits, grains, nuts is our diet. It's like just like cows, their diet is mostly grass and grains, and every animal or every creature, even with the plants, they have a certain diet that makes them flourish and makes them more lively, should I say. And our educational system, back to education again, has informed us to eat crazy. They have this food pyramid that's been around since the 1950s or so, and it's not the correct type of you can get more protein from eating kale than you can from eating meat.
Correct.
And with kale, I usually juice it. Sometimes I'll boil it or blanch it or steam it. But I usually juice it and mix it with other different types of vegetables, and I drink it. I did a watermelon fast for 30 days about 2 months ago, and that was very beautiful. It was a nice experience. It was a very nice experience. I must have went to about maybe 14, 15 different watermelons.
Wow.
But it was nice. It was nice. I have 2 juicers and 1 blender.
I purchased a juicer last year, and I've set it on the table, and it's, once again, I haven't used it yet, but that's my next stage. But I wanted to get to a place spiritually, and I'm just beginning to transition into that place and that person where I'm ready to take that next level and start juicing. Because a lot of times people look at me and they look at my health and they say, you don't look like you're 60 and you move around like you're in your 20s. Because I believe in eating healthy. I don't eat nowhere near as healthy as you do. But one thing I learned was that the human body wasn't made to consume 3 square meals a day.
The diet that's out there for the Black American and the indigenous people, we're consuming the food of the Caucasian. It's not the food of our ancestors.
Our body was made to consume 1 major meal a day. One major meal a day, two at most.
Yes, that's what I do. I eat once a day. Twice, so we consider breakfast as mostly a juice.
Right.
But the meal I eat,
our bodies,
and also being in the sun. I'm in the sunshine all the time.
See, I don't like the sun. The sun makes me sleepy. The sun makes me tired. But going back to what I say, these are the three proponents of health to me. Eating healthy, drinking a lot of water or juice.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about fruit juices, not carbonated juices. And I'm talking, and the only type, I'm not talking juices that you buy in the store. I'm talking about juice that comes from raw vegetables and fruit. Juicing.
Yes. You juice them yourself.
You juice them yourself. So eating healthy, drinking a lot of water or fruit or vegetable juices, and getting the proper amount of rest and sleep.
Yes.
Those are the three major components to a healthy life.
Yes. And that, what you just said is it should be one of the primary things that children learn in school. They're not teaching children proper dieting. They're not feeding them properly.
No,
a lot of these schools,
they want us to eat 3 meals a day.
Yeah, 3 meals a day, and they want you to eat. Most of the food is processed. It comes out of a can or a box. Yeah, I saw a little social media informational thing where these people took a box of Cheerios.
Correct.
It took a box of Cheerios, put the cereals in a blender, and they blend the Cheerios up, and then they took a magnet and they pushed it through the dust of the Cheerios, and the magnet picked up metal. There was metal in the Cheerios.
Crazy.
I remember when I was telling you about my son, he lives in Norway, and like I said, 20 years ago, he went there. And I've been there too. I've been there to visit and stuff like that. But since this pandemic, I haven't been there last 3 years or 2 years. But I remember one of the things he called me and said, "Dad, there's no Cheerios here. They don't sell Cheerios in this country." And other countries, they have in my travels, I've noticed this too. Other countries, they have a very strict diet. They're eating the food of their great-grandfather, of their ancestors. Right. It may seem like they're eating this. They may, like in India, when I was in India or Africa, it may seem like they're eating the same food every day, but it's nutritional, and this is what it was good enough for the grand folks. It's good enough for the new folks. So,
the reality of it is a lot of the food we have here is banned in other countries because of a lot of the chemicals, fillers, colorings that they allow here in the United States is banned in those foreign countries. So they can't import the food into those foreign countries because there's a ban on the food.
There's a ban on them, and they're banned on them because of the health reasons. The countries, they're looking after the people's health, and they don't want their people to have this high rate of cancer, or this high rate of prostate, or this high rate of diabetes, or this high rate of blood pressure, or this high rate of heart attacks. America, we lead the medical illnesses that are in the world. I'm not saying other countries are pure, but they're having their own personal diseases, inter-country diseases. But we lead a lot of diseases based on our diet consumption.
Ed, I'm going to have to close out the show. We've touched on quite a few areas. I know and I can feel and I can sense that this show here is going to open a lot of people's eyes in the coming months. I want to bring you back. I also want to bring you in once we go live and go video, and I have the set actually built. I want you to be the art director and do all the decor for the set when we actually go live via video instead of just doing audio. But I want to thank you for coming on the show today, sharing your life, sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge with me and my guests. So thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you so much, my brother. I will send you that information I have about the Suez Canal.
Okay, today we are signing out. live healthy, live life,
Thank you.
love each other. Thank you.
That's right.